Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. So now let's look at Matthew chapter 13, verse 9. Whoever has ears, let them hear. The disciples came to him and asked, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?" He replied, "Because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them." We also see this in the parable of the 10 minas and the parable of the bags of gold. And this part happens to be in the middle of the parable of the sower. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their ears, hear with their eyes, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Okay, let's stop right there. So what was the problem, right? Their hearts became callous. They didn't truly love. They didn't truly have courage. They didn't have the courage to be intelligent enough to see. It was interfering with their brain function in that particular way, which is not the same as them trying to hack my brain and interfering with my brain function, because I see what should be done, and you know by my actions. Whereas the people in the story that they're talking about don't see. So they didn't truly see with their mental vision, they didn't truly perceive, they didn't truly understand, and so they weren't healed. Okay? So again, their heart has become callous. They hardly hear with their ears and have closed their eyes, and so they won't be healed. They are not in the martial root of the idea that David is superimposed on, so they fall off, they fall away, they fall out of grace. And we see that in verse 21, where it says, "But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away." So in the parable of the sower, it's saying that people have various problems. They don't have the root, the martial root, the root and offspring of David, the root of the idea that David is superimposed on, right? Because it's a story. We'll get to that in a second here. Okay? They don't understand. They don't persevere. They don't have the heart to bear fruit. So they make the word unfruitful, and they are tares that are thrown into the lake of fire. So now, why did the Bible put this in a very complicated way? You could simply say, okay, you need to be in the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order and obey God in the Royal African Falcon Martial Art line. If you can't find it, you should scramble to be morally precise to the best of your ability and to be willing to die on the drop of a hat rather than do anything that's clearly immoral. But they didn't do that. Instead, they made it so you had to connect a bunch of scriptures, right? The kingdom of heaven will be taken away from you and given to a people who will produce its fruit. And keep in mind, the Jews never had the kingdom of heaven. They're superimposed on another people. I think it's Proverbs 17, where it says, "A prudent servant will rule over a disgraceful son." Keep in mind, I was never serving the Jews, and I was serving God, but my line has always been the line of the sons of God. Okay? The Jews in the Middle East are just a group of people. The Jews we see today, their ancestors were just a group of people who were merchants and traders, right? And Baal is a deity of merchants. They were never in the divine order as kings. But the Bible doesn't say it that way. Why? Number one, because they want to kind of conserve the orders that they have, the Baalist orders, Zeus and Jupiter and Caesar and Herod. It's written that way. And Herod went after anybody who was going to tell the truth about these things, right? That's why he went after the firstborn children, or the children born around that time. And Christ is said to have hidden in Egypt, which goes back to Haro Ares, a form of Horus. Horus the Great One, which goes back to Eri, the last part Eri, which in Nigeria, in Igbo land, is the Son of God. And those who call good evil and evil good over there in Greece and Rome, Eri means chaos. To their order, their psychotic kind of Greek ritual madness order, Bacchanalia, Zeus, Dionysus, right? Religious ecstasy, theater arts, they call order chaos and chaos order. And they describe that word Aries as what you might say is the opposite of a tall, fit black man who is obeying God, who is the Son of God, which is me. Not any black man, but the ideal. And they made it a white female who's kind of short and stubby, is how Aries is depicted in Greece and Rome. And so when you look at this thing, I think we can all agree that it's very foolish, and no offense to anybody, but it's very foolish to assume that God magically meant that the Jews, right, which is absurd, are magically meant to lead or something. That's absurd. That is an absurdity. And so it is with white people, right? They're colonists. None of them did anything. You know them by the fruit. What is the fruit of white people? What did they do? Right? What did they do that's so great that somehow justifies a spot, right? It's the parable of the 10 minas. It's the bags of gold. It's the parable of the sower, right? Whoever has will be given more. As we looked around at the Jews and the whites, did they have? No. They just had propaganda. Okay? So they're not given in abundance. And whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. Now obviously, I'm from heaven. My job is to tell the truth about these things. Continue moral repetition all the way to the end. It's not to try to find my life and kiss up to these people and somehow try to, do the best one can do, which is not what they should do, within the boundaries. Okay, they should not do it within the boundaries of serving the devil. Because if a group of people scrambles with all its might, so to speak, to cheat me out of my right to lead, they're rebelling against God, they're deceiving, and they're seeking to put themselves above me, and that's satanic. And whatever groups do that the most effectively, they're like the immediate children of the devil. So you have people following the immediate children of the devil instead of the children of God. And the Bible is Bible. All these stories are necessary. If do unto others as you would have them do unto you sums up the law and the prophets, then why this thick book? Why all these stories? Why all these translations and interpretations and all these different churches and 20,000 denominations? I can't stress that enough. However, there is truth in there, and I use it to explain it to people because when they hear my explanation, it far transcends what they hear in their churches. They look around and they see Simpsons and Jetson type peoples. They see Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees types. Okay, they see itchy and scratchy types. They see clowns. They see fools. They see propaganda shells and assorted gang stalkers, and they know that my translation is king. It's superior. And my path is greater. My spirit is greater. Thank you.